What's up, everybody? This is episode number 3 of 4th and 1, a sports podcast. 4th and 1 is presented to you by Why Am I a Nerd Podcast Network, where everyone is a nerd about something. My name is Sean Farwell, and sitting opposite of me is the golden voice of podcasting in the flesh, Matt Ferreira. What's up, Matt?
Not too much, man. I'm super pumped up today. I see you've got your classic blues on. I've got my away white and red because today is an episode dedicated to the New York Football Giants. Let's go.
Let's
I can't
go.
wait. And this is actually, we owe a shout out right at the beginning here. This was suggested, that we go through the playoff run, which spawned into an entire Giants episode by a friend of the show, Timmy Whalen, awesome guy. Actually defended our country. He's a vet, so shout to him.
Shout out to Tim. Yeah, obviously we tried to figure out what we wanted to talk about, and I figured, hey, let's just cover the whole entire
Giants,
topic.
Which, God, I love this.
Yeah, we're going to talk about memories, games, the legend himself, Eli Manning, those great playoff runs, the future of the Giants. I mean, we're going to cover just about everything. So if you're not a Giants fan,
this might not be your episode.
Rate us 5 stars and end the podcast now. No, I'm just kidding. But you can. We're going to cover some other stuff as well. So just hang in there, and we promise we'll do our best.
Yeah,
I also want to give a shout out to Ant, the Italian behind the computer over there, pulling up all the stats. We're gonna have to work him into the intro, I believe.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna have to. And I'm sure we're gonna get into some bitter Giants versus Cowboys memories that he's gonna want to chime in on here too.
Yeah,
so.
And I'm sorry, but this is gonna be a rough episode for you.
Yeah, I don't want to be here that much. I'm just kidding.
And I've been thinking with our intro, we are a sports podcast, so we need to pull, like, if you're an announcer, a PA announcer, I think we need a proper sports introduction.
I think you're right.
Like maybe like a Bob Shepard or, whoever is your guy, I think they need to introduce us.
I think it's a great call.
I was thinking for you, we could do something like, speaking out of that mic, 6'4", 225 pounds, Matt, the golden voice Ferreira.
Love that. Actually,
we might use that
right now. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that intense, but if we can find someone correct to do it, that'd be a dream. Before we get into all our Giants talk, let's talk about some current events. So, have you seen Tom Brady's Buccaneer picture?
It's the best a Bucs uniform has ever looked, if I'm going to be 100% honest. I've got some love for Brady as a big Michigan fan. But I was shocked by the move to go to Tampa Bay. But I kind of like the way the jerseys look. I saw Gronk's too.
I was thinking, like, I can trade Tom Brady. I could have traded Tom Brady to the Buccaneers in Madden. I could, saw how he looked. They should have really dressed him up. Like, I want, like, Buccaneer Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Like, maybe a peg leg, a hook. We give him a beard,
at least an eye patch.
Yeah, and then you have Gronk as, like, his first mate.
Yeah. Bucs probably got the pirate or something.
Yeah, and if the Buccaneers want to use this idea, sponsor the podcast.
Yeah, just throw us some money, and honestly, you can take all our ideas.
They have that boat in their stadium. We could put them up there.
I do want to check that out, where they launch a cannonball. Which, actually, speaking of, they launch the cannons every time they score a touchdown. Do you think, just kind of segue here a little bit, there's going to be more pressure on another team than the Buccaneers this year with their offseason acquisitions of Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski?
The only team I think that will have more pressure is the New England Patriots, by letting Tom Brady go and do his thing and not being able to bring Gronk back. I mean, he didn't want to come back to them anyway, but like just trading him away for, I don't know the details on what they got back exactly, but it wasn't that much.
Yeah.
Now, how good is Gronk going to be? I don't know, but the Patriots have been in that division crushing it.
They've got a standard of excellence, and I honestly think they lose ground to the Dolphins this year. I think the Dolphins are one of those teams that are going to surprise people with the comeback that they're going to make.
Yeah, I think that division, and I think we have a question about it later in the podcast, but that division is going to be up for grabs.
Yeah.
And it pains me to say this, but, the Jets might be fighting for that top spot.
It's interesting to see because the Jets have a lot of nice pickups too. I would love to see Le'Veon Bell go back to form. I don't know if that's going to happen, if it's an Adam Gase type thing that's limiting the team, or if it's just first year jitters after taking some time off. But I would like to see Bell come back to form.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan State guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
played
not
against
happy
Michigan
about
and
that.
Notre Dame.
Not happy about that.
But no, you're right. And you said his name. I forgot he was even on the team because he had such a
Exactly.
quiet season last year. It would be nice to see both New York teams have some success.
Wouldn't it be?
And, kind of rebuild that rivalry because, as we'll get into later, it really hasn't been a rivalry.
Imagine if we got a Subway Series Super Bowl. Like, imagine that. The fervor going throughout the city.
I know there was all that talk when MetLife, they were hosting the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
hey, let's get the Giants and the Jets there.
It would have been crazy, yeah.
It would have been crazy. We had talked about Major League Baseball. We had exchanged some text messages.
Yeah.
A couple tweets went out. I believe it was John Heyman who said that there was an agreement for a 60-game season.
Which made it look like I was going to be right, like I was the guru of predictions, and now it's looking like I'm an asshole and I'm 100% wrong. So
we were about to pull the trigger on an emergency Zoom
Yeah,
cast.
we were very close to give you some breaking news
And
here.
I did my little league course and was like, not so fast, my friends, because the players are not, they want more games.
Yeah, which they want the money. I can't blame them for that.
No, and I get the owner side too, is, they're not filling seats. So what are you going to, how are we making that extra money? Now, every owner is different. Like if you're the Yankees, maybe you don't have that problem. But if you're a small market team, that's a real concern.
That's very, very fair.
Did you hear, and this actually kind of jumps into our next topic of the return of sports with the Premier League, but the Bundesliga, the German, they were giving away seats for let's say it was $100 a seat, and you could put a cardboard cutout of yourself in the seat for televised
That's
games.
actually kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Hope you show up on TV. Yeah, I
put
kind of
myself
like
in a
that.
seat.
Yeah,
why not?
For a good price.
As long as
I would
they send me
definitely do
the
that.
cardboard cutout after.
Yeah. Do 2 copies, or at least you have the chance to see yourself on TV. Like you do something ridiculous in the background.
Well, if you were to get a cardboard cutout put in a seat, would you be would you dress to impress? Give
I would do something completely absurd and over the top. I don't know what it is yet, but it'd be something. I'd probably be out there with some kind of cape, maybe an Eli Manning superhero outfit, something.
You can check our Instagram later for those pictures. The Premier League is back. I'm a big Liverpool guy. I'm pumped for it. They play 2:00 on Father's Day. And they've had a couple games over the past couple days, and, no fans in the stadiums. And it seems like their players are, ready to go, back in shape, ready to play. There's only so many games left in the season. Will it be a big thing without fans in the stadium? I'm sure with the coronavirus going on, you can't even go to your local pub. So, I don't know. It's good to have something to watch other than repeats of the cornhole tournament that were on 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Also, are you a horse racing guy at all?
Not a big one, but I do like going to the track, if that makes any sense.
What's a nice day at the track for you?
Usually I leave pretty drunk. I can't say I spend a ton of money. I'll usually gamble on 1 or 2 horses just based on, I'm like a guy who's going in based on the names. I know people who do it on stats. I respect that. I'm just not there. I don't know enough about it to really make an educated guess as far as it.
No, my dad's into it, and we used to go all the time, and I kind of can figure out how to bet some horses, but I'm the same way. I'm going, they have a nice bar there at Monmouth Park. Yeah. You can see the horses. You can have a bunch of drinks.
Yeah, and you can do some sports gambling there too.
You can bring your own too.
Yeah, which is solid. That's a very big.
Yeah, plus. And the sports gambling now. So, but for the Belmont, they're doing it this weekend, and it's basically the only other thing to watch on television, U.S. sports, and it's actually going to be the first race of the big 3. The Kentucky Derby is not till September. So
is it that late? I didn't know that.
And they're shortening the race as well. And one other interesting thing about that race that I heard is that the jockeys actually will be kneeling.
Really?
Which is
Yeah, that's not a sport you'd really thought that was going to reach there.
No, but I mean it's good to know that it's it is reaching it. Maybe maybe this time around this movement is working.
Yeah.
I mean I think, you get the jockeys. Are they kneeling on the horses or off the horses?
Sure, yeah.
That's what I want to say.
Because that's definitely interesting, because I can't recall the last time I've seen a jockey not on a horse. But either way, nice to see their, I was going to say taking a stand, but I guess taking a knee for something they believe in.
Well, let let me ask you something about just kneeling in general. Is, Colin Kaepernick obviously started the whole movement, and it was super controversial when he did it, where to the point where I believe they don't even show the players during the national anthem on
They
television.
might have stopped doing that. I wouldn't be shocked.
Now, I think they're going to start showing the players again.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's
100%.
going to be a big thing this year for sure. There's no question in my mind about that.
Do you think Kaepernick is going to get the opportunity to come back, or do you think it's like teams are just doing it just because?
I think it's a weird situation with Kaepernick because we're talking about a guy who, political things aside, like just looking at the player, he opted out of his contract with the Niners because he was worried about getting cut. When he was offered another opportunity for, I believe around $20 million, I'd have to look at the numbers on that. I don't know if the Italian can confirm that or not. I believe he was looking for around $20 million to sign with another team, and there were questions about whether or not his talent level was there. And so I think that was a factor. I think he was ultimately blackballed in the long run.
100%.
But I think that was initially a factor where teams were a little trepidatious to kind of bring him on because you're not paying $20 million for a backup.
Right. Right. And I think, now if you were to tell me, how many years has it been? When you're out of the football for that long,
it's tough to react.
And he was, and like you said, he wasn't like, he drove the 49ers to that Super Bowl that year, but he was kind of like the new Michael Vick, and where teams didn't know how to prepare.
Ready for him. I 100%
They didn't know how to
agree.
prepare for him. And that next year, they kind of caught up and they figured him out.
Yep. Which is why it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Lamar Jackson this year. I'm going to throw that out there. I do think John Harbaugh is a great coach and will probably come up with some more things to do to kind of keep people off base, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some regression there.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing with Kaepernick is like, yeah, he did get blackballed, and now it's 5 years later, and these teams are kind of like showing up because they I feel like because they feel like they have to to make the right move when they should have done it in the past, because he's probably better than most backups.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few backups that he's better than Mitch Trubisky. You know what I mean?
He's
it's not even a question. I question whether or not sometimes if Kaepernick should come back, because let's say he comes back and he's not playing up to the standard that, teams or fans or anyone expects him to. Because like you said, he's been gone for like 5 years. I wonder how that impacts things for him going forward from there. I almost say he's better off staying out of the league and continuing to do the social justice platform that he's on, as opposed to going into the league, and then it almost might detract from the positive things he's trying to do off the field.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think he should keep being the activist that he is. He's doing, obviously, what he did when he first kneeled has made an impact until now, where people are still talking about him, and he's in the community, preaching and doing the same things that he's always done.
He's definitely made some change, and it's people are now starting to kind of get it, where I think in the beginning a lot of people were opposed to it. They thought it was disrespectful to the flag, and that's never what it was about, and B, I don't know how well known this is. He spoke to a Green Beret about the best way to kind of use his platform, and they said that kneeling was a sign of respect for a fallen comrade or anyone else there, so that it wasn't born of a disrespectful thing. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused with the
and I understand, and I get it, because like the flag means different things to everybody. It doesn't have to mean the same thing, but the point wasn't like, at the end of the day, he's doing it, but he made a statement and it got noticed. And it took off, and like I said, it's still around today, where that's a form of peaceful protest.
And I think we're gonna to kind of piggyback off what you said in the beginning, we're gonna see a lot more of it this year. There's players already saying, and I think it was Baker Mayfield confirmed he was, Kyler Murray. There's a lot of players that I think we're gonna see a lot more of it.
Yeah, and I hope we do, like, at least until things change.
Yeah, well, that is the idea, right? So let's hope.
Let's go. All right, so before we get into all our G-Men talk, let's take a second to hear from our sponsor. Why Am I a Nerd podcast network has been brought to you by our sponsor, Me Moms. The best breakfast and lunch down the Jersey Shore, with 3 great locations in Wall Township, Middletown, and Brick, New Jersey. Me Moms specializes in unique and fun takes on your traditional lunch and breakfast items. Open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can find more information at www.memoms.com. And we're back. I think you had asked about a Kaepernick statistic.
Oh yeah, I think
I can't pronounce that word for some reason. And I think our man Ant had it for us.
Yeah, so he wanted at least $20 million from any team that wanted him. But in this recent article that came out on Wednesday, seems like the Chargers are very interested in him and are putting him on their workout list.
Interesting. I'm curious how that would go. Do I think Kaepernick deserves a chance? Absolutely. But that's an interesting move for the Chargers, considering they just drafted Justin Herbert, I think 6th overall. I wonder how that goes for his development, because are you going to make a long-term commitment to Kaepernick? And then is Justin Herbert going to learn from that? Like, after being out of the league from this long, I'm curious how that would impact his development as a player.
Here's what I would say is there's a guy named Cam Newton that's still a free agent. And yeah, he might be crazy. He might be more expensive. And, maybe for a team, he's not the best PR move than like a Kaepernick, but if you want to put a player behind somebody, and he's available, and you can put him, he's been successful. He's had some injury problems, but that's a place I could see him fitting into pretty well.
Absolutely. I think I'd have to look a little bit deeper into it, but I think there's probably a couple other teams that Kaepernick would be a better fit for than the Chargers, just because they're trying to build for the future right now. That I can't see it. Like, maybe there's got to be someone. I just can't think of anyone off the top of my head that would be a good move for him.
And like we said, I think he's going to be given opportunities, but it's been so long, who knows where he's
you don't
at.
know what you're going to get, what kind of training he's been doing for that. So there's definitely question marks there. And then honestly, there's question marks for the league in general. Who knows what kind of training anyone's really getting done right now. It's got to be tough to get to an NFL level facility. So.
I mean, even like weights, you can't even get weights online for your household. I don't know how these players are getting
tough.
places.
So like, if you didn't already have a gym, there's definitely some question marks there.
All right, I think it's time we begin the Big Blue Talk.
Let's go.
Episode 1, we professed our love both for this team, and so much so that we're going to dedicate.
I think this is actually the only team we have in common. So it
is the only team. Now that's probably never going to change, and that's okay. But at least we have the Giants.
We got something.
It hasn't been great recently.
It's been a rough few years.
I think the past couple of years we've been just letting Eli kind of finish out his career.
I blame Jerry Reese for this wholeheartedly. He did not put the right pieces around Eli Manning to succeed. And then every time someone was up on the chopping block, it was never Reese. Do I love Gettleman as GM? Not quite. He's got every opportunity to prove me wrong.
Hold that thought. We do have a question about that.
Oh, do we? Okay. Well, then, I'll hold
And I would also like to say, before we get into all this, we asked for a lot of questions via the Facebook. And people showed out. Gave us some good ones. And before we get to the Giants talk, I'm just gonna throw this out there. I got some hate from Jets fans, as in, hey, are you gonna bring up how they only won one Super Bowl in the past X amount of years?
Well, we're also the only team to win a Super Bowl every decade for the last 5 decades. I'm sorry. So
agreed. And then I also got, hey, you spelled Jets wrong. Are you taking Jets questions as well? And
didn't the Jets players spell the Jets wrong at the draft?
I don't know. Shenanigans. To go back to one of your segments, shenanigans. What are some of your favorite memories about the Giants growing up?
Oh man, actually a lot of mine are a little bit more recent. One of my favorite, one of the things we have up here is favorite games, and I'm gonna kind of segue this
whatever we gotta do. We'll go over all of it.
I'll never forget. I was at work, and it was it 2012? I think, because we still had Hakeem Nicks and Victor Cruz on the team, and we were down against the Bucs. Josh Freeman was shredding us. We were getting absolutely creamed. And Eli brought us back. Nicks had over 100 yards receiving. Cruz had over 100 yards receiving. Eli had this great comeback game. It was just so awesome to watch. And I was working at a restaurant at the time. Stopped what I was doing because I was like, I need to finish watching that game. And all my tables totally understood why. It was just so phenomenal to watch. I think 2012 against the Bucs. Also, I was in attendance.
When you say Josh Freeman is shredding the defense, that doesn't give me
it doesn't give you, but he was Josh Freeman had moments here and there that he was briefly a Giant too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he came in as a backup.
I think we had him for I think
not even
it might have just been an off season. Another one of my favorite memories / games, though. My buddy and I went down to New Orleans on Halloween because the day after the Giants were playing the Saints. And this was great because it was a homecoming for Eli. It was a homecoming for Odell. It was a homecoming for Ruben Randall, whatever. And it was just really cool to watch. And that game was an absolute shootout. I think it ended up being like 49-52 was the final score. We lost, unfortunately.
I remember that.
But that was her third highest scoring game in NFL history. And for being in hostile territory, so to speak, all the Saints fans were awesome. Everyone there was really cool. It was a great experience overall. Loved being at Mercedes-Benz Superdome. It was a really, really cool trip.
I always find that when you go to away games, like you hear all these horror stories, but I think it's all about where you sit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You go up in those nosebleeds, man.
Yeah, that's
you
everyone.
don't know what's going to happen to you. You can disappear.
We got tickets, I think, the day of the game. We waited because they were dropping a little bit. So we're like, all right, we'll see what happens right before. We ended up sitting lower bowl, which was awesome. Odell caught a touchdown pass right in front of our seats while I was in the bathroom. So that sucked. But other than that, it was pretty.
But you were still in the same vicinity.
Yeah, I was there. I felt the energy.
Yeah, I remember like my first Giants game I went to was like in the late 90s, and they were terrible. Like they were bad. I think it was like they had Danny Cannell, Rodney Hampton, Charlie Way, like, and we were playing the Eagles, and it was just like I remember sitting there and like the game was like 13-10 final. But from that point on, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
like,
I was
with my dad at the time, and we kind of we also played fantasy football for a while, which I hope we do a fantasy episode.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do. I think that's gonna be a pretty big component.
That was part of it too. Is like we had the bond for fantasy football, and we would always watch the Giants, and that's when I really got into it because I was like a little kid.
Yeah, like
I'd be at the Super Bowl parties, and I would just be like
what's this commercial about? Yeah,
where are these video games at? Like I don't care about the game. But as you get older and you get to like go to the games, that's like when you kind of really see the team live. You're like, whoa, this is awesome.
You're just like, this is nuts.
I went to one of the games. I believe it was I want to say it was either the last game at Giant Stadium, but it was a night game against the Panthers, and it was snowing out. It was like a blizzard.
Oh man, those games are crazy.
And I drove my uncle up to the game.
Oh, that reminded me.
And
reminded me of one.
And I drove my uncle up to the game, and he's in a wheelchair, so he has like this big van, and you get the handicap spot. So I pull into the handicap spot, and there's just snow and slush everywhere, right? I jump out of the car, and as I land, I go into slush, like 6 to 8 inches. So my feet are already soaked. I'm like, all right, let's get ready to go. I'm looking at my car, looking for my phone. I can't find my phone. I don't see it anywhere. So I'm like, Uncle John, can I get your phone? I need to call mine. He's like, yeah. Call it. I don't hear it. I call it again, and I look down, and there's a light shining up from the slush. No, I believe they ended up winning that game, which was great. But when you go into Giant Stadium in December with cold feet and no phone, and I'm talking, I think it had like an LG chocolate. Like I'm talking like this is like a throwback. This was an iPhone.
Like, that thing wasn't gonna make it through that snow. Oh man, that's rough.
What was you're gonna say something prior to?
I was speaking of snow games. I forgot about this somehow. This is an awesome experience. So I went to school in Michigan, and there's one day I woke up and like I'm eating cereal, and like my roommate just come downstairs and started to cook breakfast, and watching ESPN, and they're showing footage of the Viking Stadium collapsing under the weight of all the snow. I was like, oh crap. I was like, I guess the game's canceled against the Giants. And they come on and announce like 2 minutes after that the game's been rescheduled and tickets are being given away for free in Detroit, which was about half an hour from where I lived. And I hear my roommate from the kitchen go, you're the luckiest person on the face of the planet. Like your team just happens to have free tickets 30 minutes away.
Catastrophic event leads to you going to a game.
Boom. So me and my then girlfriend went with one of my coworkers and my roommate. Awesome experience. That was one of the most fun games I've ever been to because everyone was kind of rooting for the Giants because they're, mostly Detroit fans. Like that's their division rival. But like people showed up in all kinds of random jerseys. Whatever sports jersey they had, they were wearing. Still snow on the ground in Detroit, but like everyone's just in a great mood. It was a ton of fun, and the Giants won, so I was all about it.
Yeah, let's talk about our guy Eli. Let's start off with when they made the decision to bench Eli. What were your thoughts when that happened?
I refused to watch the game until they brought him back. I was so furious and livid at that decision because if they had brought who was the guy they drafted that year? Was it Davis Webb?
Yes.
So Davis Webb, if they had started him, would have been like, Okay, even though Eli's poor play at that point wasn't on him, it was the fact that there was no offensive line. He was gun shy, scared for
Wasn't
his
going to
life.
happen like that.
And they're like, and Ben McAdoo, that fucking idiot, is like Geno Smith.
We're
is the answer.
This is an anti Ben McAdoo podcast.
Hands down, because I'm like, even if I can't say that everything that happened with that team was entirely McAdoo's fault, but literally part of being a coach in New York is knowing your audience. You cannot bring someone who failed on the little brother team, sorry Jets fans, to the big brother team and expect him to succeed off of the heels of, I don't give a fuck, a legendary quarterback who won 2 Super Bowls for the greatest franchise in the NFL. Like, come on.
The season was over.
It was, it was pointless. And it just,
It ruined the streak.
And that's what makes me the angriest about the whole thing. You know how hard it is to start, 210 consecutive games, if I'm not mistaken, completely ruined because some dumb idiot. I'm trying to restrain myself from cursing more. Just couldn't hold back from placing Geno Smith. I can outplay Geno Smith.
You said the 210 games. I think our man Ant has some stats for us on his good old pal Eli Manning.
I love this guy. He played a total 236 games. He has a total of 366 touchdowns in his career, 60.3 completion percentage. He also was 2-time NFL Super Bowl MVP.
Gotta love that.
2007, 2011. Walter Payton Man of the Year in 2016. He went to 4 Pro Bowls. He was 4-time Player of the Week, 1-time Player of the Month for 2008 in November.
What a year.
What a year. And I'm going to throw in some, he was sacked 411 times.
All right. I think we got all the stats right.
How many consecutive starts did he have, though? Can we confirm the Iron Man streak?
While he's looking that up,
It was definitely more than Tony Romo, right? It was definitely more than Troy Aikman.
A lot better playoff performances than Tony Romo for sure.
And Dak Prescott, for that matter.
But Eli, for me, obviously, he's a Hall of Famer. And I know people will argue that, statistically, he didn't have those ratios where he had greater touchdowns.
Years.
But the longevity, like you're talking about the starts.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Like, how not to, and he's not a mobile guy. And I know that kind of maybe tributes to him not getting hurt. But still, the offensive lines he played later in his career at the age he did, he should have been hurt a lot more.
Absolutely. And he probably was hurt and just played through the injury very often. I remember there was one year I was scared for his streak because he had that really bad high ankle sprain that lasted throughout like the entire summer, but nursed his way back through it and fought through it on the field. One thing I will say, you brought up statistics as a reason he might not make the Hall of Fame. He is top 10 all time, and I'm sure we can have the Italian here confirm it, in every single relevant quarterback statistic. He's top 10 touchdowns, top 10 attempts, top 10 starts. Obviously, like everything you could possibly look at for a quarterback, he places within the top 10 of the entire list of quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Like, this guy is a Hall of Famer. Like, now the other thing is, people say he wasn't super dominant. He's also played against some of the more legendary, played at the same time as some of the more legendary quarterbacks we've ever seen. This is, with the offensive scheme of the NFL. If Eli Manning played in the late 80s, there's no question at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just the fact that, he's within his big brother's shadow. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees are all playing at the same time. It's tough for anyone, but Eli did hang in there. Like, he might not have been number 1, but he was surely in the top 10. I would argue top 8 to top 5 that entire time.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, like, he did it for so long, and at such a high level. Like, I know he got off to a rocky start for the first season or so, and then he at the end of his career, wasn't the best, or how you want to see a guy go out, with getting benched. But in last year's season, he kind of redeemed himself.
Oh yeah, dude, he had great plays. Like, he was, and that's all it took. Is he just needed a better offensive line. Eli's going to deliver for you. He's going to take shots down the field. His arm strength wasn't gone. It was that he was gun shy. He was just sick of getting the crap kicked out of him. Every time he dropped back to take a snap.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say about Eli, NFL fans, you're welcome for all the good Eli Manning memes.
Seriously.
Like, he's had some good ones. And, anytime something bad happened to Eli, I always got one of those to my phone.
Yeah. But he always shakes everything off. Like, yeah, Eli was that guy. Most teams would kill. I would argue most Jets fans even would kill to have a guy like Eli Manning that you knew was going to start every single week. There was no question about it. There was no quarterback controversy unless you hired Ben McAdoo and he's a fucking idiot, that you knew who was going to start every single week at quarterback while Eli Manning was on the Giants.
Yeah, and part of Eli being a Hall of Famer are his 2 Super Bowls and, and 2-time Super Bowl MVP
against arguably, the greatest offense in history with the 2007 Patriots. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so let's go to that. So they have the 2 runs in the 2000s for the Super Bowl. They have 2007 season with the 2008 Super Bowl win. Their 10-6 record. They're the first team, I believe, and I don't know the exact how many years, but to go on the road and make it all the way to the Super Bowl. And their path was not easy.
No, not at all. Not at all. Tampa Bay, who was pretty good that year. I think they also finished 10-6, if I'm not mistaken. Number 1 seeded Dallas, which it's never easy to go up against a divisional rival when they're at home in a playoff game. I don't care what team it is. Like, that's a tough environment.
Yeah, and I'd actually like to know, ever since 2008, after Dallas was the number 1 seed, did Dallas recover from that? I know they had some rocky starts after that, but I'd like to, was Eli Manning the nail in the coffin for them for the past 12 years?
Or it could have been Des Bryant's hands, because we all know he didn't catch it.
Des caught it.
He did not catch it. He couldn't even catch coronavirus. Come on.
But so you go into Dallas, number 1 seed, you knock them off 4 points. It's for these 2 Super Bowl runs. And it might be because I'm a Giants fan, but they were incredible.
Yeah.
Like, every game was pretty close.
And it was just it was the true cardiac nature of the Giants that we're used to, where it's just always a heart attack. You're always on the edge of your seat. They're never putting the game away. The one exception I would say actually was we'll get to this in a little bit, was in the 2011 playoffs against the Falcons. I was at that game. That was a fun one to watch, but I'll put that in the back burner for right now.
Beat down, #beatdown.
Yeah.
To bring back Eli, though, you were right, Matt. 210 consecutive.
Ooh,
beating out his brother by 2 games.
Nice.
Hey, the little brother's got to beat the big brother at some point, So they go to Green Bay, and I remember watching this game. It's the 3rd coldest game in NFL history. It's -1 degree at kickoff, and then -24 degrees with the wind chill. That's insane. Like,
imagine catching a pass in that environment.
When it's like below 20 degrees, like, I don't even want to go outside.
Oh, I'm not doing anything. I'm burning whatever's in my house just to stay warm. Like, that's awful.
And 2008 was when week 17, the Patriots had come into MetLife and beat the Giants to get that 16-0 record. And I was at that game.
Oh, were you? That's awesome.
I was at that game, and for me, it was a moment like, I was upset the Giants lost, but they were 10-6. They're going to the playoffs. And
they brought the Patriots to their knees in that game. Like, that was a close game. Like, I think a lot of people realize, like, the Giants might have what it takes. Like, that pass rush was superb. One of my favorite Giants of all time is Justin Tuck. So you had Tuck, you had Strahan, you had OC. Like, it was a devastating lineup.
Yeah, the defensive line was ridiculous. And the thing, when they made it to that Super Bowl after they beat Green Bay, they knock them off 23-20 in OT. I mean, they go to that Super Bowl and you're like, oh, the Patriots again.
It's like, not this time. They had this chip on their shoulder.
Undefeated. And the Giants, with that defense and with Eli Manning, they keep in it until like the last, there's 5 minutes left. They're down, and you get the helmet catch.
And you know what's funny about the helmet catch is everyone focuses so much on the catch, but I would love for people to, next time you watch that play, look at Eli Manning again. He evades what has to be like 5 sacks, just true tenacity and grit, just grinds out, finds this guy down the field. And little known fact, David Tyree dropped almost everything in practice the week leading up to that Super Bowl. Eli finds him down the field, trusts him, heaves the ball, and it's very well thrown considering the amount of duress he's under, and just delivers. And we've got arguably the best play in Super Bowl history.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to set. It's tough to bet against that play. I mean, like you said, the Eli scramble on top of the catch, just those 2 components of that play, and not on top of that, the time of game it was at, where they were, they're down. They need that first down to keep moving on.
That was was it third down? Oh my God.
You got to put all the factors into it, and it's
so
hard
much
to argue against.
on the line, and that's what made Eli Manning so great, though, was that when it was all on the line, like, that's who you're betting on. Like, if it comes down to it, it's like, I know Eli's not going to be the reason we lose this game. If it's, the fourth quarter of a playoff game, like, it's not on his shoulders, on someone else. Like, because he's going to deliver every time.
In 2008, I was down at Coastal Carolina watching this game.
I was in Michigan watching it.
I was going nuts. And like I said, I had taken my uncle in the wheelchair to all these games leading up to this point, and I swear, my grandmother told me when they won the Super Bowl, they thought he was going to get up out of the wheelchair and dance around the house.
That was huge. What a day.
Yeah, it's fun to go back and like relive these moments, especially like when I was trying to put together some of the playoff runs and like reading the statistics and reading the matchups they went through, and it's similar like the Kobe thing we talked about. It brings you back to those moments.
Stuff you haven't even thought about,
and it's a lot of fun to do, and it's something that I'm glad we're even just doing this podcast.
Oh yeah,
I've gotten way back more into the little statistics of sports that I used to be into.
If only we had sports to watch to go along with this.
Seriously. Hey, we can relive the glory days though.
Facts.
Right? So 2011. They limp into the playoffs, 9-7.
This was, for a couple reasons, the more memorable run to me. I think this is when I was super heavily into football at this one, because I'd moved home like from college, so I'm like hanging out with all my friends. We're watching games together far more often, and like I don't have to scramble to hope I can find it at a bar. You know what I mean? I can just watch everything at home. And when they won the Super Bowl this year, I had the trifecta of awesome things happen. So like my team wins the Super Bowl. Then I get a text that I won the $1,000 box pool. Nice. I get another text from a girl I'm talking to at the time that, hey, your team just won the Super Bowl. Now what are you going to do? I'm like, this is the best day of my entire life to this point. It was phenomenal.
The trifecta.
The trifecta.
Can we guess what you did?
Oh, yeah.
On next episode.
Eli wasn't the only one to score.
Hey. So that's regular season. They actually played the Patriots in Foxborough, and they beat them 24-20.
Yep.
Now, when you beat a team one time, and then you have to end up, we'll get to it, but playing them again, it's like, all right, it's the Patriots again. We beat them when they were undefeated.
And you got to know they're pissed about it.
Yeah.
You got to know they're pissed. Like, they even forgot it's only 4 years after the last time. Like, they're coming back guns hot.
So you said you went to the Atlanta game.
Yeah.
And I think they really thought it was going to be a closer matchup because
I know
the Giants are 9-7.
Yeah, and Atlanta came out. They had that safety early in the game, and that was it. The Giants never looked back. I'll never forget that. I think the best play of the game was Osi Umenyiora wrapping his arms around the offensive lineman, grabbing Matt Ryan, dragging them both to the ground, which had to have been a combined 500 pounds of flesh that OC manhandled and threw onto the turf. Like, you don't find guys that can do that every day. Like, it was really something special.
I believe they had Pierre Paul.
Pierre Paul, that was the year he started going off, yeah.
So you had, like, the pass rushers you had.
The NASCAR package, yeah. They did work.
So you were at the game. What was like the atmosphere at that game when they're just crushing the Falcons?
It was electric, and I'll never forget. The big song at the time was, Jay-Z and Kanye West. That was blasting through the stadium. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is like the best game I've ever been to. Like they might actually make this run happen. And they sure enough did. Like it was an electric atmosphere. Normally you leave a game and you're kind of tired. Win or lose, you leave a game, it's an exhausting experience.
Yeah.
And like it was just, I was wired the whole time after that. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. So round 2, they go back to Green Bay. And they handled them.
Yeah,
they never
Aaron Rodgers this was his MVP season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he had a ridiculous season.
Yeah.
Let's get some Aaron Rodgers stats for that season.
Yeah, he was absolutely filthy, and this is where I got all my respect for him as a player, because between this and the prior year where he won the Super Bowl, just before this, it's just electric. Like the guy just doesn't miss. It's like it's beyond. I don't know what's beyond lasers, like teleporting the ball into someone's hand, but that's what he was doing. Like
he's just an impressive guy, and he's done it for so many years without that supporting defense, without the he doesn't have he has a great receiver now, but he hasn't had the great receivers in the past.
Yeah,
Even the
very
running
true.
games have never been good.
Well, it's like, that's why I know it's a Giants podcast, so I'll only say this briefly. What the hell are the Packers doing? Like, what are they doing? Load up on weapons. You were one game away from the Super Bowl. Load up on some weapons. Make the push. Why are you drafting a guy now?
Deepest wide receiver class in years.
Yeah, like, what? And they didn't even take one. Which, okay, could say they're confident in the guys they have left, but maybe just gamble a little bit, make Aaron Rodgers a little happy.
Yeah, it sends the wrong signal. Aaron Rodgers obviously said all the right things when they drafted Jordan Love, but it for the future of the team and for his success this year. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I get you have to make a choice at some point to bring in that quarterback.
Yeah,
but for me, it probably wasn't the right. This wasn't the right year to do it.
I agree. I don't even know. It depends on what they're looking at for the future too. I don't even know if Love's going to end up being the right call. But, we'll see. I'm sure he can be molded. He's sitting behind someone great, so we'll see.
We'll see.
Rodgers, 2011 was NFL MVP.
There you go.
He set numerous records, recorded a passer rating of over 100 in 13 games during the season, including 12 games in a row, both records, and a passer rating of 110 or higher in 12 games, including 11 in a row. He received 48 of the 50 votes for the league MVP, the other two going to Drew Brees for that year. He also finished second behind Drew Brees for the AP Offensive Player of the Year award.
How did he not win Offensive Player of the Year? How is that possible? What did Drew Brees do? That's crazy.
I think it was that the year where, Drew Brees, I think probably, he always throws for 5,000 yards.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like, what did he
do that like somehow catapulted him above the MVP? Like, unless they were just doing it to be cute. Like,
everyone's equal. You got to hand out trophies for everybody. So
yeah.
So they go to San Francisco.
And this was, I think, the game where everyone started to respect Eli Manning because he still got a look. So, like, a lot of Giants fans I knew at the time were like, oh, he got lucky with that Super Bowl. The defense carried it. And this was the game where everyone's like, holy shit, this guy's legit.
He was getting pressured all game and just making the throws.
Yeah, and just doing what he had to do. And it was in the rain. Devastating environment. Like, this is the type of game you want to run the ball. And Eli kept it entirely on his arm, literally shouldered the entire team and delivered time after time. And we did get, I guess, a lucky break with the fumble with, I forget the player's name, but the guy fumbled it on the kickoff return.
Yes.
And that's what changed it, for the Giants. Just give Eli the chance to put it away. But
you're 9-7. You make it through the playoffs. You need some lucky breaks.
Yeah. Yeah, very true.
And I know people will say, they were never the best team. They're never the best team, but when the game's on the line and you can pack it in and you can win, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter what your record was. And that's a good thing about the NFL too, is you can make it in 9-7 and you can get hot and go on a run and that's it. That's
what makes the NFL exciting.
Right.
This would be a lot different if we looked at it the same way. Yeah, exactly. It'd be a lot different if it was like the NBA where you got best of 7, you're like, all right, like this could happen at any point. Like, no, it's their do or die that day. The better team, on that day is the one that goes on. So that's what makes it cool in my opinion.
So Patriots again, Super Bowl. This one's in Indianapolis. I'm actually living at this time 2 miles from the stadium.
Really?
I got to go to the Super Bowl Village.
That's awesome.
The weather was great. It was a great experience for me. I didn't get to go to the game, obviously, but I was there. Yeah. I was there. I saw the Giants fans.
Oh, that is sick.
I believe I was flying home after the game, and it was just all Giants fans on the plane.
I'm not shocked by that.
It was great, but. They trailed the Patriots and, they end up taking the lead. I believe it's Ahmad Bradshaw had like a 6-yard touchdown run with under a minute left.
By accident. He was trying not to score there because Belichick was letting him in, saying like, we need all the time on the clock we can get.
Yeah.
And I think the highlight of this game was Eli threw the most perfect pass I've ever seen. Like, if we're talking about how good Aaron Rodgers is, this pass to Manningham between two defenders from like 40-something yards out was so perfect. Like, I've never seen something.
And comparable to, the helmet catch moment in 2008, this is that moment for the Giants in 2011.
That's like the push in it. They're like, we're winning this game. That was what it is because Eli just did it, man. Like, that was Oh, phenomenal.
Man, we'll get back there. We'll get back there someday.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully soon. Hopefully, I like to think Danny Dimes has it in him.
So I said before, we got a lot of questions we got to get to. There's a lot of good questions, and these people made me do some research. Look, we're not gonna have the most accurate statistical information, even with a stat guy, but we're gonna do our best to give our unprofessional opinions on everything.
So full disclosure here, I haven't even read. I think I read one question off this entire list, so my reaction will be pure here.
Yeah, I prepared a little. I prepared a little bit more, but yeah, let's get into our questions and answers here.
All right, first question we got from Cleveland Bob.
Shout out to Cleveland Bob, Coastal Carolina guy.
There we go.
Unfortunately, he's a Cleveland fan, so say no more.
Who's more responsible this year for getting OBJ back to being Pro Bowl caliber in the upcoming season? New head coach Kevin Stefanski or Baker Mayfield?
What do you think of this one, Matt?
I think it's a pretty even split, honestly. I don't think the Browns have ever really gotten a fair shot with their coaches, just because it's a merry-go-round. Every year it's somebody new. I do think Baker Mayfield shoulders a lot of that responsibility, but he also has a lot of mouths to feed. I think Odell can do a lot with a little, as we saw with the Giants teams he played on, where Eli had no time to get him the ball. Injuries might have changed a little bit of that, but I still think if the right scheme is created and Mayfield is looking for him as his number one receiver, which I say it's a 50-50 split, then Odell can be back. I do think he's poised for kind of a bounce back year. You never really see a wide receiver switch teams and really take off immediately that first year. So I think this year he might be sneaky good. If you're looking for him in fantasy, this could be, something to think about.
There's your first fantasy tip for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Odell has a bounce back year. So Kevin Stefanski, he was the offensive coordinator for Minnesota Vikings. As you saw with the Vikings this year, they like to run the ball. Cleveland's downside last year was they didn't have an offensive line. I mean, we received one of their offensive linemen, their best offensive lineman.
Yeah, for all the weapons they have, that's where you need the help, is in the trenches.
And I think they added some help this year. I think their expectations aren't as high. If Baker Mayfield can get a little better and improve every year and get OBJ the ball, I mean, I have them right now. I think you can see Cleveland as one of the wild card teams. Yeah. I just don't think they're going to go past the Ravens. But with the weapons they have, with Landry, with OBJ,
they got Austin Hooper, I think. Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb's gonna have a breakout year. Yeah, he's in my top 5 fantasy breakouts.
Really?
Yeah.
And then they've still
I'm pushing number 1 running back status.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's an interesting.
And I don't want to give out fantasy information because I have a lot of opponents.
Same here. I'm a little nervous saying
that's what I think of Nick Chubb, especially moving into Kevin Stefanski's system, and that will only help Odell Beckham free up, get some one-on-one matchups.
100%. Yeah, because who are you going to double cover in this offense? Really, you're going to open somebody else up. 9 times out of 10, I would. Them and actually, this is getting a little off topic, but I would say the Cardinals are also a little scary in terms of offensive weapons here too. But that's another podcast.
No, that's another topic. But hey, OBJ. I think he's back to Pro Bowl caliber this year.
Yeah,
I think the Cleveland made the necessary changes this offseason to kind of get that point. There's not as much pressure on them.
Yeah.
And, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to be a Pro Bowl if he was a Pro Bowl on bad Giants teams.
And you know what? And I'm still butthurt about that trade. Funny story about that. I was in Denver at the time for a bachelor party, and there was an Odell Brewing Company, and I realized, me and my friend were bar hopping, and we're there, and I'm like, well, I've got to get a shirt. I was like, do you have one in blue and red? So I bought it, wore it the next day, and as I'm riding a scooter, one of those Lime scooters around the city, get a notification on my phone that he got traded, and I started cursing up a storm in the middle of Denver. It's a rough day.
Hey, he's helping build Giants teams of the future with a couple draft picks.
How much more open some of the players would be if you got Odell there to pull pressure off of Saquon, and then you still got Engram.
I get it. I'm not to go on the Odell soapbox, but he did just sign him to a giant contract. We trade him away.
Yeah.
Did we get enough for him? Probably not. But I think part of it was also that that receiver stereotype of being a prima donna and causing drama in the locker room.
A lot of people thought that he was an issue. I don't necessarily agree with any of that, but you are right. I think there was some.
Yeah, I think Cleveland's a better market for him where he's not in the spotlight.
Yeah, I agree with that too. All
right, let's go to the next question.
All right, next question from Ross the Boss Reed. Do you think Rick Grimes could replace Daniel Jones?
No, Matt, are you a Walking Dead fan?
I am, and I actually read a lot of the comics for Walking Dead. So I've got to ask with this one, are we talking about the comic book version of Rick Grimes? Because that's the answer. No, he's only got one hand.
Obviously, yeah. And spoiler alert, and we'll probably cover. You guys will probably cover this in Yo What Up Comics. Check out their newest episode.
Please do.
But he also has a bum leg. Like, are we talking about young Rick Grimes?
Yeah.
Or are we talking about Rick Grimes before he gets his hand cut off? If we're talking about Rick Grimes through the mainstay of the story, the guy has a hook on his hand. He's Captain Hook.
And
how are you taking snaps?
And let's be real with another thing. If we're pulling Rick Grimes right out of, the pages or even the storyline of Walking Dead on the TV show, this guy's got a lot of shit going on.
Right.
I don't think he's going to keep a clear-headed quarterback. He's not making, he does make quick decisions, but they don't always pan out very well. So I don't know if he's the guy I'd want leading my football team.
Well, let's talk about television Rick Grimes, because number one, Madden elusiveness rating 99. The guy hasn't gotten bit by a zombie.
Yeah, very true.
The pass rush, no one's going to touch him. Leadership, I mean,
Leadership's up there. Leadership's definitely up there. It's a decision making that I'm like, and it's not even necessarily it's always his fault. It's just sometimes it's not the right situation. It's you're out of the frying pan into the fire, and by no fault of his own, but minor faults of his own. Like, he didn't always know what was going to happen, but you know what I mean.
I mean, he did his best leading in terrible situations, which you can get put on a football field as well.
Very true.
Now his accuracy. Pinpoint accuracy. He's not shooting a gun or anything, but you have to assume that translates to the football field.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You would think. You would hope at least.
Now if he's on my team, if I'm drafting him first round, I'm taking Carl Grimes second round, number one receiver.
Yeah.
It's just so I can hear one of these. Carl, go deep, Carl. Now, Carl has to watch his diet on the team. He might be eating too much pudding or whatever he did on the show.
Carl's got to pay attention. It looks like, I think off-field distractions would be a big issue for Carl.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's young. He's not 21 yet. He gets put on this team. All the guys are going out to the club. He's going to get the women throwing themselves at him. He's making the big bucks now. He's never been exposed to this before.
Yeah, it's tough. He might not be able to handle the lifestyle in New York. So
Rick Grimes as a leader, yes. Rick Grimes as a quarterback, not so much.
Not so much. As a leader, definitely.
Let's go to the next one, Ant.
All right, this one is from @sports as told by a girl. She wants to know, why do they hate the linebacker position so much?
I've asked myself the same question.
Is it because they're scared they can't replicate LT? Like, I really don't know what it is. Since Antonio Pierce, I don't think we've had a truly quality guy. Now, who was it? Was it not BJ Goodson? We had the guy last year go off and his name's escaped me,
Goodson?
but then he tore his ACL.
You said BJ Goodson?
It wasn't Goodson, though. It was, I can't remember his name. If our dear statistician here would be so good as to look it up, who the Giants linebackers were last year.
Yes, so you mentioned LT. You're not going to hit that level.
No.
Now, in the late 90s, early 2000s, they had Jesse Armstead, who was solid. But they really haven't drafted a linebacker. There's always that year where they're like, got to get a linebacker. That's our number one need.
Who was the last big name? Was it Clint Stintum? There really hasn't been a guy that. No, I mean we had LeVar Arrington, I believe, was on one of those Super Bowl teams, but he was past his prime. Yeah, exactly.
He was injury ridden. He was, I think he was the number 3 pick coming out.
Yeah.
Went to the Redskins, and then, we signed him, but he wasn't anything big. He was a big name.
Yeah, but he wasn't
talent-wise, he wasn't the guy. We haven't had that. And this year we were projected, people said Isaiah Simmons was going to be our guy.
Which, you know what? I still think we made the right call. I loved Isaiah Simmons as a prospect. Thought he could have been a great Giant. But at the end of the day, we needed to correct the mistakes that we'd continued making in the past and draft someone to literally protect our investments. The most valuable players on the team are Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and drafting Andrew Thomas and Peart, I might be saying his name wrong, out of UConn were great calls.
I believe it's Peart.
Excuse me. Yes, I knew I wasn't saying it right. Those were the right calls, because these are guys that they're going to anchor both sides of the offensive line, and we can move forward with the future, have some confidence, watch them grow as the team progresses, and hopefully we're back to contending, in 2 years rather than 6.
Yeah, I know we drafted a couple guys and we signed Blake Martinez. Yeah. So I think they're trying to fill holes in certain ways. It's tough to say because the new defensive coordinator runs obviously a completely different system.
But I like what he did. Granted, Miami wasn't good last year, but they stayed competitive in times I didn't expect them to. I think our defense, as it stands now, as a whole, is more talented than Miami's was last year, especially after some of the losses and trades they made. So I'm curious to see how that Amoeba defense is going to translate in New York. If it goes well, though, unfortunately, I don't think we have a defensive coordinator next year. I'm sure he gets pegged for a head coaching job. So
he's been in the league for a while, and I've heard different things about his defense, that he runs kind of like a multiples. He doesn't run the 3-4-4-3. He does a combination of both. And he's super aggressive with his DBs blitzing, which is going to be good for the Giants. But I think it's time we need to get into a little police blotter here with our next couple questions.
Matt, you want the linebackers? Lorenzo Carter, Marcus Golden, David Mayo, Alec Ogletree.
Alec Ogletree. I could have sworn we had another guy. That
was the starters.
That was the starters. Okay, I'm sorry. Who are the backups, if you don't mind?
Ryan Connolly.
I think it was Connolly.
Yeah. Jay Davis.
Yeah, I think it was Ryan Connolly.
He was having a nice preseason.
Yeah, that he was playing very well and towards ACL.
He was a rookie.
That's exactly who it was. Thank you.
Bro, all right, next question. We got from Ryan. He wants to know, what is your opinion on DeAndre Baker and his current situation?
There's a lot of allegations, obviously. He turned himself in. I know he released a tweet, basically, don't believe what you're reading. And at the same time, his lawyer is also saying he's going to get the charges dismissed.
You know what? I will say I wasn't optimistic about this in the beginning. As more information came to light, I'm kind of thinking like, okay, maybe he is telling the truth. I will say he's handled it pretty well. We haven't seen him really flip out. There hasn't been any negative press around him since. And I think that kind of speaks to the fact that normally if you do something in the NFL and, you keep seeing things come out now to make it worse. Yeah. So I think things are kind of moving in his favor. I hope he's able to come back to the team. And if and when that happens, I hope he's able to put this behind him and not have it be a personal distraction, because that can be a scary thing. I'm sure, fans and enemy teams alike are going to be trying to bring that up, yelling at him about it all the time. So I hope he's really able to kind of put it in the past and move forward.
I mean, he struggled last year. So in that respect, is it a huge loss if he doesn't play? No, because we definitely have some depth with some of the guys, with Bradbury that we signed, and some of the guys that Darnay Holmes we drafted, and some of the guys from last year. But, his body type, and he might fit well in this new defensive system compared to what he was asked to do before. And the Giants haven't done anything about it yet. They haven't really said much. They're basically monitoring the situation. So that kind of tells me Joe Judge as a new head coach, you think he'd crack down and be like, these guys are gone.
Yeah.
But he hasn't really done it yet, so it makes me wonder if
he's taking a little more of a wait and see.
Wait and see, get all the information, then move on.
Yep, and we definitely need him. Spend a first round pick on the guy. I'd like to see some kind of return on investment.
100%. Next one, Ant.
All right, Kevin wants you to speak on the Aldrich Rosa situation, which is him getting arrested for a alleged hit and run in California.
I mean, I don't know if it's alleged anymore, but he's in trouble. He's in some trouble. We're going to need in my opinion, I think we're going to need a new kicker.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, the guy made obviously really bad decision, and this is an anti-drunk driving podcast. So
very much so.
We need to... I mean, there's options out there, but he was 25. He's had some great seasons.
Yeah,
it's just a disappointing situation.
Yeah, he was really coming into his potential, I think. And I don't know what it is with the Giants recently, where you go back to Josh Brown, a couple of years ago, where we get a kicker who is finally showing some light that, I feel comfortable watching. I think he's going to nail it. And then something like this happens with, legal problems. So, all the best to Rosas, made a mistake. I hope he improves on that, but I do not think we see him in blue again.
Yeah, I agree, unfortunately. And this could be the guy where, Judge basically says, hey, sorry, buddy, you're gone. Work on yourself. Come back.
Yeah.
Come back, and maybe we'll give you another shot. And I think let's move on to the next guy.
All right. Next one is from Chad, who says, congrats on the podcast.
Thank you.
And how do Giants fans feel about David Gettleman? Because from an outsider's perspective, he kind of seems like an asshat.
Chad, you got an interesting point of view there.
And let me just shout out
Ryan.
Ryan before is a good family friend, huge Giants fan. Kevin's actually my cousin. He's out in California right now. Huge Giants fan. So we have a lot of big Giants fans right in here.
Awesome.
Chad is not a Giants fan. And I think, this is why he's asking this question, because Chad's a big Cornhuskers fan, and he's not really paying attention to the NYG.
Gotcha. He's more watching the Michigan Wolverines load up for next season.
Shout out to Chad, good fantasy player as well.
Actually, also, I'm sorry, while we're doing shouts to Sports is Sold by a Girl, which is a close friend of mine, Ashley Binder, has been running this Twitter account, and it's all female writers. They've got a great perspective. If you get the chance, definitely check him out on Twitter. 100% worth it.
Yeah, I think we need to have her on as well.
Oh yeah, very much, as soon as we can.
So you were going to talk about Gettleman before I stopped you because I knew we were going to get this question. What's your opinion on Gettleman?
I go back and forth between fuck this guy and I kind of see a goal. I think for a while he's one of those guys who he does kind of talk out of his ass a little bit. He tries to say I'm the know-it-all. I've been here. He had that whole thing where he was very much against advanced analytics, which
he's old school.
He's very old school.
He looks at the guy and makes an evaluation on
exactly, which is almost a fault in today's NFL. And I think the Giants, with the exception of Joe Judge, which we spoke about, I think, the first episode, they tend to go with guys that they kind of know. Gettleman has a past history with the Giants. I think they made the Maras and the Tisches feel more comfortable, so they brought him in. That's not always the best call. I would hope in the future we see a little bit more youth injected into positions like this.
Yeah.
Someone with a broader perspective. But I can't say that I'm super mad at the things he's done this offseason.
100%. Now, my thing about this offseason, though, is it coincides with the hiring of a new head coach.
Yes.
Who has ties to a lot of players that,
we did bring in.
Bring in. Second round draft pick McKinney. He played for Alabama. Judge was under Saban. So, the first year, I think he really botched the draft, Gettleman, and some of the moves he made. He tried to rebuild and contend at the same time. Yeah. And he traded away pieces for nothing. And a lot of the moves just didn't make sense. Now,
and who did we sign? Jonathan Stewart to a $3.5 million deal to back up Saquon.
Traded Snacks Harrison.
That one hurt. And then just drafted more guys to say we're a team that I feel like is very much, we would be the most dominant team in the 80s or 90s just because we're built by the run and against the run, and we're just, it's a passing league. So I think now with the cornerbacks, we might see something to that. I still want to see a little bit more in the pass rush end. So Gettleman's, I think, is on his last legs here. I think if he doesn't really deliver and we don't see a big change here, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Giants move on. And I think Judge had a lot to say about this year's draft.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is kind of Gettleman's last hurrah. Now he killed it this draft, so I'm hoping he stays.
Yeah, hopefully if he keeps up and stays working like this, if that's what it takes to keep him on the hot seat, keep him on the hot seat all the time. If he's going to keep doing well. Let's
jump to the Chris Sims question.
Chris Sims. Are you happy with Chris Sims putting Daniel Jones at number 22 in top 40 quarterbacks going to this season? That's from Colt. And he also says Baker Mayfield is at 21.
I think it's a reasonable position for him. It's his second year.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start looking at, Chris Sims hasn't finished this list. I know he's getting a lot of pushback. I think he put Brady and Drew Brees at 15 and 16, where he's getting crushed.
What?
And I haven't read his reasoning,
read that either.
But I think 22 is reasonable for Jones. I know Dwayne Haskins is at number 39, I believe. So shout out to Redskins fans.
Shout out to the trash team in Ohio, the Buckeyes. Too.
The only thing I could say is maybe he could be ahead of Baker Mayfield. I mean, it's pretty even at this point. He has less of a resume, but
I think Jones has shown great things. It was electric, that game. Again, actually, that might have been against the Buccaneers, who we brought up multiple times already on this podcast and almost every
Giants
segment.
/ Buccaneers podcast.
Seriously. But I think he was electric in his first game. If he clears up the fumbles, because he had far too many far too many, then I think we're looking at a serious case for Rookie of the Year. So I'm hoping that's something we see improve. Now we've got the offensive line additions, new coaching staff in place. Maybe he learns some better fundamentals on how to take care of the ball. It's tough to teach awareness. I don't know what he can do to improve that, but hopefully he kind of cleans that up and we can really see him kind of make some moves in the right direction. So I would hope that even if he's ranked 22 now, that he exceeds expectations and we see him, placed in the top 15 after this, hopefully top 10.
I mean, he's had the one season. Like you said, he has a lot going for him this year. Better offensive line for him and his running back. Yep. Better repertoire with his receivers. Hopefully a better defense to get the ball back in his hands. I mean, 22, I think for right now is reasonable. Yeah. I'm not mad at Chris Sims. So pro Chris Sims podcast for now.
For now, yeah.
If he's 22 next year, depending on what happens, that opinion could change.
I mean, my opinion might change week one. If I think he's got a great game, I'll be bringing up Chris Sims, calling for his head. Like, how dare you add him at 22? He's number one. I can see myself saying it
now. Let's jump to the last question, Ant.
All right. This is from Mark the Shark. If the NFL doesn't get a full season in, will it help or hurt the Giants' rebuilding process?
Interesting. I'm actually going to go with hurt. I think just because we've got, I'm sure there's a lot of training happening. I know part of the rationale of signing Cooper Rush was to kind of help with the transition for Daniel Jones, since he already had an idea of what the system Garrett's going to run is. But I still think it hurts. I think it hurts the entire league as a whole. But the Giants, with the new staff, it's definitely going to be a little bit tougher if you can't get there in person because a lot of people need to be in person to learn. There's only so much you can kind of do over the internet that I think it's going to limit the effectiveness of whatever they're trying to instill. So the alternate side of that is that we could see a nice late season push. If everyone kind of gets it together and gels, we could see a serious push from, maybe the midpoint of the season if we're lucky, where everything kind of comes together and we take some teams off guard and maybe make a run, but I'm scared.
And I agreed originally with that it would hurt them. But after I thought about it for a while, you have all these new guys, you have a new coach, you have new systems in place. I think they just need repetition of game after game after game after game. And if they don't get a full season, I don't know. Will it hurt them? Or I'm not too sure. Is most of the growing going to be done in practice? In the early season, training camp is supposed to kick off on time. Yeah. So, hopefully they can get the systems in place. Everything that Joe Judge is saying is positive in that his team, but there's only so much you can do over a Zoom call.
Exactly.
Now, yeah, I think it could hurt them, but these guys are all young. They have this new offensive line, a lot of draft picks on the offensive line that we're gonna have for hopefully quite some time.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
So I'm hoping no shortened season. But if we don't get a full season in, I don't think it'll hurt the Giants as much as maybe other teams that are in their prime, ready to strike at the Super Bowl.
That's a very fair point. Yeah, that's a very fair point, actually, that, teams who are within striking distance of getting the title, they're definitely going to be a little bit more negatively impacted because if they do miss significant time and they're slightly off rhythm for something, they stand to lose a lot more than the Giants do.
Yeah, I think that's it for the questions. If we didn't get to your question, we'll answer them. We'll film another segment that we'll post to our Instagram. So that if you didn't hear your question, we will make another video. So that's where those are going to be. Let's wrap things up here. Give me some of your predictions for this season. Do you have a record prediction, team MVP, however you want to hit it?
Team MVP, Saquon Barkley.
All right, I agree.
That's my guy. Overachiever, I think, is going to be. I'm probably still going to stick with Darius Slayton on this.
I agree. These are my. I was going to write these down. I'm not making this. I agree with both the picks so far.
Underachiever. That's kind of a tough one.
I'm gonna go with. We had a question about Golden, which we're gonna answer in the other segment. But I'm going to go with Golden, the linebacker. He had 12 and a half sacks last year. Was he
officially re-signed, though?
No.
I think he's going to be, too.
He is going to be, and I don't know what kind of deal he's going to get. If he comes back, I looked at his years that he had, and he's kind of like a product of Betcher. the old defensive coordinator.
Gotcha.
And I don't know how he's going to fit into this system. So I could see him with high expectations going in, but I also think that's a reason that they're not signing him right now.
Right.
But that's kind of my stance.
Definitely makes sense.
Who's your rookie of the year, you think?
I think we're going to see Xavier McKinney. I think he's a very underrated guy. He's, kind of a jack of all trades. I think with this new defense they're installing, we're going to see him all over the field.
Daniel Jones, what do you think he's looking like?
If he cleans up the fumbles, I think we've got a quarterback of the future, and I'm very excited to see where he goes.
What do you have? You have an outlook for touchdowns on
him? That's a tough one. I could be bold.
He does the rushing touchdowns and passing.
Because I was going to say, it's like, I think
30 is a good number.
I was going to say
under
30 total. I would say over 30.
Okay.
I could see him doing something like 32, like maybe like 28 passing, 4 rushing. I think that's pretty realistic. I could see him pulling that off.
Where do you think they finish the season, and do you think that this season is considered a success for them?
I honestly think we end up giving a couple upsets here. I know a lot of people are saying we have one of the tougher seasons in the league and they're not expecting us to do well. I think we come out very close to 8-8. So I'm going to say 8-8 is a baseline. Obviously, I hope they do better, but I think 8-8 is the baseline for what they end up doing.
Yeah, I think 8-8 or 7-9. I just don't think they're ready. They have too many spaces on the roster until some guys get better and they fill some spaces through the draft, hopefully.
Yep.
Or free agency, whatever it is. But the teams in the division, the Cowboys do still have an explosive offense, great offensive line.
The Cowboys, unfortunately, got a little scarier. The Eagles are always an issue.
Eagles are always there. Redskins are getting better.
Yeah.
So it's a tough division. And
what's his face? Dwayne Haskins dropped weight. He could be, on his way to doing something. He's ruined things for me.
Chase Young running around after Daniel Jones.
Damn, they're honestly, I know we're running out of time. The Redskins defensive line is downright terrifying. And actually, there's another guy we're going to bring on soon, buddy Dave Sarner, who runs the Rise and Fall podcast. He's a big Redskins fan, and I'm sure he has some things to say.
But fun.
Yeah, but that's actually, maybe we could get a whole, NFC East round table going.
I like that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So I think that's it for this week. I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. I'm Sean.
And I'm Matt.
And we'll catch you next time.
And please remember, you can find us on Instagram at Why Am I a Nerd Official, on Facebook and YouTube at Why Am I a Nerd, on Twitter at 4th and 1, that's WON pod. And please like, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars would be appreciated.
Have a good one.